right, talking college football with Josh Parcell, joining him on College Football Country, cfbcountry.com. We make our way to the Big 12, which has suddenly become interesting. Maybe off the top of the season, it was Oklahoma. Okay, is Oklahoma State going to challenge? We're not going to see them play until deep into the season, but some other teams have jumped into the fray, one being, of course, TCU. They've got a date against Kansas State. Maybe the Wildcats not quite as good as we thought they were going to be, but they did take Texas to overtime. They've got to replace Jesse Ertz at quarterback. We also have, let's see, West Virginia taking on a Texas Tech team. You talk about an under-the-radar surprise team that's actually playing some really good football. Take Oklahoma State to a one-score game. They beat Arizona State and Houston outside the conference. And then, of course, the Red River rivalry with Oklahoma taking on Texas. That didn't come out too well, but Oklahoma taking on Texas, of course, in Dallas.
Yeah, there's a lot of intrigue in the Big 12. This is a conference where you got a lot of good teams, and you don't have a great one. Even though TCU right now is undefeated and kind of the class of the league for the moment, I don't think TCU is invincible. And that game against Kansas State, a little easier without Jesse Ertz but under center for the Wildcats. But that line is 7 for a reason. I mean, TCU is not a dominant force right now in that conference. I think that game is going to be interesting. I think the Horned Frogs win this week, but they've got some tough ones coming up. Texas Tech. You talked about Texas Tech. They're better than we expected. This is the best team Cliff Kingsbury's had. The defense has played much, much better than it ever has under Kingsbury. And by that, I mean they're not giving up 65 points a game. But they're creating turnovers. And that's something that's really interesting to keep an eye on throughout the season because those things tend to normalize themselves over the course of the year. Right now, Texas Tech is, I believe, 5th in the country in turnover margin. I think they're +9 or maybe more. Yeah, +9 in 5 games, plus 1.8 per game. That could kind of go back to the mean eventually, and I think that favors West Virginia in this game because Texas Tech's passing defense, not that great. The Red Raiders giving up a ton of yards. They gave up, I believe, 360 yards combined or on average to Oklahoma State and Arizona State, by far the 2 best offenses they played. West Virginia's offense is on par with those 2 teams, if not, I mean, certainly as good as Oklahoma State. I think the Mountaineers cruise in that one. And then Texas, Oklahoma, I like the Longhorns in an upset. I think Oklahoma's passing defense is very rough right now, not doing very well. Obviously, give up 40-plus points to Baylor and then give up, obviously, a huge lead to Iowa State. I think that Sam Ehlinger at quarterback is the answer for the Longhorns right now. He put up 300 yards passing, 100 yards on the ground last week for Texas, and that's the recipe for success right now for the Longhorns. He's the guy that fits what Tom Herman wants to do. Tom Herman, this is the other stat, 6-0 all-time as a head coach against the spread as an underdog. 5-1 straight up. The only time he lost as an underdog was earlier this year to USC, where they nearly pulled off the upset over in the LA Coliseum, losing by 3. Herman loves these spots. He's great as an underdog. This is where he thrives. I think when you look back at the end of the season, that loss to Maryland in week 1 is going to be one of the biggest kind of confusing results of the year because I think this Texas team is pretty good, and I think they prove it on Saturday in a win against Oklahoma.